What is that terrible sound?
Oh, it's my new
browser
mechanical keyboard with clicky switches and RGB. Do you like it?
Oh boy, I'm gonna introduce you to the enthusiast world of mechanical keyboards.
Holy cow, that was horrifying.
You'll get used to it. You may be thinking, why are you talking about mechanical keyboards? To most, keyboards are something we take for granted, but if you really think about it, most of us use our keyboard the same amount or more than our phones. So why wouldn't you want to have a super nice keyboard to type on every day? And that may lead you to think, what's the point of buying or building a nice mechanical keyboard if your current keyboard works just fine? Well, in reality, they'll both serve the same purpose, but building your own keyboard allows you to customize almost everything about it, making it uniquely your own. Most of the time, they'll also be much better quality, since they're normally made out of much higher quality parts and materials. There are a bunch of factors that affect the feeling, sound, and look of your keyboard, and I'm gonna break it down for you to make it as simple as possible. First on my non-existent list is the form factor or size of your keyboard. It's probably the simplest thing to understand about keyboards, and most people will already know something about it. Also, you'll see these layouts commonly described as percentages. Now these percentages aren't exact, but they give a good idea on how big the keyboard is. The smaller the percentage, the smaller the keyboard. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. The main and most common form factors are full size, 10 keyless or TKL, and 60%. Of course, there are a bunch of other sizes that basically fit any need you may have, such as compact full size, 75%, 65%, 40%, and even 27%. How are you even supposed to use this? It's legitimately just alphas in a spacebar. This shouldn't be allowed. There are also some people that want something a bit more unconventional, such as split or ortholinear, where the keys aren't staggered like most keyboards. All of these layouts won't really affect the keyboard that much, but for some layouts, you may need to get used to using hotkeys or macros to do some tasks. Going along with types of layouts is your case. Your case is entirely preference, but depending on the material it's made out of, it may affect the sound and weight of your keyboard. And let me tell you, some cases are really heavy. Like they should need to be registered as weapons. If someone breaks into my house, you may be going for a bat to defend yourself, but I'm going for my keyboard. Moving on to your PCB, this is what tells your computer what you're typing, so it's like kinda important. All you really gotta know is there's soldered PCBs where you solder the switches in, and there's hot swap where you can remove your switches whenever you want and switch them out for other switches. Okay, time to cut to the chase. Switches will be the thing that affects the sound and feel of your keyboard the most. For types of switches, you have tactile, which has a bump, linear, which is completely smooth, and clicky, which has a bump and also makes an audible click. Now, these come down almost entirely to preference, but I'm warning you, if you get clicky switches and live within 100 kilometers of any other living thing, they will come to your house and stab you. Often people even mod their switches with things like lube and switch films. These things help the key switch have less wobble and feel smoother. There are a few other things that will affect the feel and sound of your keyboard, including your plate. Your plate is what your switches will sit in, so it oftentimes determines the layout of your keyboard. And depending on the flexibility and density of the material it's made out of, it can completely change the sound of the board. Also, really quickly, you have your stabilizers, which sit under your larger keys to stabilize them and prevent them from wobbling. These can often make or break your keyboard, since cheap or low quality ones often rattle and sound terrible. Okay, keycaps. These are what really define the look of your keyboard. Now these are entirely preference, whatever you think fits the look you're going for and you like the feel of. To help you choose, I'll break down the main things you'll need to know. First off is the material. The two main ones you'll see are ABS and PBT. ABS tends to be found on cheaper keycap sets, and one big downside is after a while of using them, they tend to turn shiny and a little bit slippery. PBT on the other hand doesn't do this as quickly, but tends to be more expensive. There are also many different profiles for your keycaps. The most common profiles you'll find are Cherry, OEM, and SA. Each profile has its own shape and size. Some are taller than others, and you'll need to find which ones you like. You'll also see different printing methods, which are basically just how the letters are put on the keycaps, and some are higher quality than others. The highest quality caps tend to be double shot injection molded, which means that there are two layers of plastic, one for the main part of the key and one for the letter or symbol, which means that the letter can never fade away. The other common printing methods that are worse quality and often wear away are pad printing, screen printing, and laser engraving. These are much worse since they're only on the surface, so they can easily be worn away with continued use. Now that I've talked about the main parts of the keyboard, you may want to know where you can buy these things for yourself. Well, you can't. Well, you can, but most of these things aren't something you can just hop on Amazon and buy. Most things in the community are sold and made by other community members, and are often sold in limited or small batches, meaning once it's gone, and you'll either need to wait for another release or buy on the aftermarket. Group buys are a pre-order for our product, which means the product hasn't even been made yet and won't even start production until the ordering window is closed. The whole process takes quite some time and often faces many delays. You may be wondering where you can go to buy the items that you missed the group buys for, or where you can meet others in this super cool community. Surprisingly, there are actually quite a few places, but the most well-known and trusted tend to be r/mechanical keyboards, r/Mech Market, and Geekhack. There are also a ton of Discord servers to make new friends and share your keyboard with others. These sites are also great to find out about the newest releases and group buys. And if you're ever looking for a specific keyboard or part, regularly watching these sites is a great way to find them. The keyboard community is super kind and always willing to give advice or their opinion on a product. Something I really like about the community in general is it's not really about what keyboard you have or how expensive it is. It's about having an appreciation and enjoying the same niche hobby. Everyone is super nice, no matter if you have a bunch of super expensive keyboards or you just want to upgrade that keyboard you've been using for 5 years. If you're looking for a place to get keyboard parts, full DIY kits, or even a pre-built keyboard, KBD Fans is a great place to go. They sent over one of their Tofu 65 DIY kits for me to build and try out, and honestly, it is a great keyboard to enter the custom mechanical scene with. All of their DIY kits have many different options to fit any need you may have, whether you want to solder or you want a hot swap, or even if you want a pre-built version, they offer it. While you're there, you also can pick up any parts or tools you may need, such as switches, keycaps, and even lube. For mine, I personally went with an acrylic case, aluminum plate, Durox stabilizers, lubed Novelty cream switches, and after a while, it feels great. If you're interested, make sure to go check it out at the link in the description, which also helps me in the channel.